And joining us from Nevis via Zoom is the Honorable Michelle Slack, President of the Nevis Island Assembly, as we discuss the mock sit-in held on May 4th in observance of Commonwealth Day 2023. Michelle, welcome to Good Morning SKN. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning to you and your team. Good morning to your viewers, and thank you for having me.
So, Michelle, could you, as we dive into the discussion, can you share with us why was the mock sit-in held? What was the reason for the mock sit-in?
Okay, so the Nevis Island Assembly actually operates as the Nevis Island branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And so the event was held in that capacity and to commemorate Commonwealth Day 2023. That was really the main thrust behind the event. In addition to that, we try to maintain a youth parliament organization in Nevis. And so we thought it best to merge the two and host the event in commemoration of Commonwealth Day.
We, over here in the studio, we normally discuss days. So we were having problems figuring out Commonwealth Day. So Commonwealth Day, because what Google gave us, no offense, Google, don't come for me, was a day that's later. So Commonwealth Day was actually May the 4th. Was it?
No, Commonwealth Day was 30th March. It was in March 2023. And because of logistics and planning, we weren't able to pull it off until May. So we had our event in commemoration of the day on May 4th.
Okay. Well, thanks for clearing that up for us. So that means the days were crossed for us. It is said that you are working to revive the Youth Parliament on Nevis. Can I say, and I stand corrected, is it that the Youth Parliament in Nevis has been dormant? And if so, for how long? And how has your efforts been in reviving the body?
Okay, so we have had a youth parliament existing for several years. And as a result of COVID, there was somewhat of a lull in activity because of the lockdowns. And so the president at that time, the Honorable Farrell Smithen, who is the former president of the Nevis Island Assembly, had indicated that they were unable to host the youth parliament sittings. So it was COVID that really caused the organization to become a little dormant. And I'm using the expression organization loosely because you may be acquainted with SKN, which operates more as an association. The Nevis Youth Parliament is not set up in that way as yet. And so that is something that we want to do, which is why you would hear us indicate we want to revive it, and we refer to it as an association. But strictly speaking, the association itself has not yet been fully formed and functional, the constitution, a head, and so on. As it is now, it is really the president and the assembly, and with the assistance of the clerk as well, who would really ensure the running of the Nevis Youth Parliament.
Okay, good stuff.
So, Ms. Slack, let's dive into the debate for a bit. The theme was Nevis Environmental Levy Ordinance, the Nevis Environmental Levy Ordinance. Why was this topic chosen?
Right. So as I mentioned, we were discussing or trying to commemorate Commonwealth Day 2023. So we considered the theme for this year, which is forging a sustainable and peaceful common future. And we focused on the sustainability aspect of it. The theme itself was focused on peace, ending war and violence, and also climate action and climate resilience. And so we tried to find a topic that could center around these areas, something that is topical, something that is debatable, and something that people can relate to. So what we did was to consider a piece of legislation that we have that is geared towards environmental action, climate resilience. So we use the Environmental Levy Act. And I say act because Nevis does not have its own Environmental Levy Ordinance. So we converted that Environmental Levy Act into an ordinance, and we had the youth parliamentarians debate an increase to the environmental levy. This is something most people will be acquainted with because we are a society as a society, we import lots of vehicles from overseas. And it is under the Environmental Levy Act that a levy is imposed where a fee has to be paid depending on the age of vehicle that you import. And so what the amendment did that the parliamentarians were debating would increase the levy for a used vehicle over 4 years from $5,000 to $7,005 that you'd have to pay in addition to your customs duties and so on, and to increase the levy on vehicles that are between 2 years to 4 years of manufacture from $3,500 to $5,000. So that's something that is debatable, relevant, topical, and in keeping with the Commonwealth theme for this year.
Interesting. And trust me, those debaters, they were on fire. I watched it and it was so fascinating and intriguing. They did well.
Nice.
They did.
Yes, they did. And the thing about it is the youth parliamentarians did their own research. Right. So they did their own research, they compiled their presentations. We gave them just general guidance and tips, and they were able to present their arguments, present their positions for us. What was required from our end was just to ensure that the presentations were in keeping with the standards of the House in terms of what is parliamentary language, and in ensuring that nothing was said that was offensive. And even in that regard, there was hardly any changes we would have had to make. And so the work that was put in was really all the youth parliamentarians.
Oh, that's nice. You mentioned war as one of the topics that I was also including. Why is it that was also not debated? Because we know how the war in Ukraine affects the entire world.
Right. So because the topic for Commonwealth Day was twofold, and we had so many persons who were willing to participate in youth parliament sitting, that really gave us two topics, but it would have been too time-consuming to debate that in a wholesome way. So we tried to focus on climate action, which really is something that is in the news a lot. So it is topical, and it is really something that dialogue is needed in relation to, and that came out of the youth parliament sitting. That dialogue is really, really important. From the arguments on both sides, it became clear that a balancing act has to be arrived at, where while the governments have to take steps geared towards climate resilience, those actions really ought not to be done in such a way that would make the burden on the common man heavier. So dialogue is necessary, and strategic thought is necessary. And that came out in the debate.
Okay, good stuff, good stuff.
And Ms. Lack, could you share with us what was the public's reaction to the debate or the mock sitting? What was the mood like over there?
Okay, so from my end, sorry, I didn't even realize the sound was coming from my end. At the sitting, we had a panel of assessors, and those assessors were not really to announce a best speaker or to announce a winner at the end of the mock sitting, but it was to observe and give us general feedback. So we had that, and the assessors were very impressed with the youth parliamentarians. The standard of the debate was high. The standard of the presentations were high. The youth parliamentarians conducted themselves professionally, competently. They were well prepared, and they appeared as they were seasoned members of parliament already.
Indeed.
That was also general feedback that I would have received from some of the persons who attended the sitting and generally thereafter. So I think people enjoyed it. People welcomed it. One person had actually suggested to me that, this is something that we should probably think about hosting another one towards the end of the year. I thought that was a good idea. So it's something we will discuss and consider to see whether or not that is feasible.
And once you host that one, you have to come back and we talk about that, right?
Sure, not a problem. Perhaps even at that time, we can have a few of the youth parliamentarians with us.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So, what are some of the plans to revive the youth parliament on Nevis? And as you mentioned, to get it back or to get it to an association like the one that's on St. Kitts?
Right. So mainly what we want to do is to create an association that works along with the assembly, but is independent of the assembly. That will require creation of a constitution for that entity, which is something that we are working on. And at the moment, we are trying to keep the interest of those youth parliaments we currently have, so that once the association is set up, those persons would come in and form part of the association, be members of the executive. The clerk and I have discussed hosting professional development sessions. So public speaking, preparing your presentations, and just general career guidance and advice that would assist those parliamentarians who may possibly end up in leadership roles, who may end up back in the House in a few years. In addition to that, we do have, as a branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, a youth parliament sitting that is coming up in a few months. And so we will continue to work with and prepare youth parliamentarians who may be attending the youth parliament sitting this year in July. And so that is on our immediate radar. And following that, we hope to continue to work with them to create the association.
Indeed.
Interesting. And Ms. Slack, we've seen how our current parliamentarians operate in Parliament here in St. Kitts and over there in Nevis, but how important it is for our young people to get involved in politics and, of course, youth parliament.
Okay, so I think it goes without saying because, well, let me mention that this year for the Commonwealth is the year of youth. And generally speaking, outside of that, we all see the importance of getting young people involved in various aspects of society because they're the ones who will take over. Before I knew anything about this office that I now hold, I was a youth parliamentarian. And that would have assisted me in giving me the early learning of the workings of Parliament to make the transition to this position a little easier. So when we introduce persons who have that interest at a younger age, it makes the transition also easier for them. And we always have to be mindful of succession planning. We also have to be mindful of the fact that the baton has to be passed. Yeah. And whoever is the prime minister, whoever is the premier, they won't be there forever. Exactly. And having a young person who they can train, who they can mentor to ultimately pass the baton on to is something that is critically important for continuity.
Indeed. And for youths that may be watching, Ms. Slack, who would the youth parliament be looking for? What type of youths? Do we have to be youths from sixth form? Can we just be youths that are in high school? What types of youths are you looking for, and how can they get in contact with the youth parliament in Nevis?
Okay, so at the moment, the age group is something we are still trying to confirm. What I would suggest is that if there's a young person looking at the program, you're between the ages of 16 up to 30, and you're interested in joining the youth parliament, you may contact with us. I can leave an email address with you. It is legislature, which is LEGISLATURE, legislature at niagovkn.com, legislature@niagovkn.com, and you communicate to us your interest in being a part of the Youth Parliamentary Association. While we finalize and iron out the parameters of the association, persons can still come on board, express their interest so that they are kept in the loop while we go through the transition phase.
I like that. I like that indeed.
Interesting. And Miss Slack, I mean, time really flies when we're having powerful discussion. But as we wrap this session, can you share with us some words of encouragement for other young debaters?
Okay, so sure. One of the things I would suggest is that we focus, do not get distracted, and do not get sidelined. Do not shy away from things that you may consider to be hard or difficult. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot on the internet. There are many various social media platforms. So there's always something to distract you from what you really should be doing. As a young person, you are at this stage where the world is your oyster, everything is ahead of you, and you can choose what you want. And if you can approach it with diligence, if you can remain focused on what the goal is that you have set for yourself, and you set aside distractions during those moments where you have to focus, it makes it easier for you to achieve the goals that you have set for yourself. And as I mentioned, that there's usually a quote that I try to live by or adhere to that says, you will never reach a higher standard for yourself than you yourself set. So therefore, set your mark. And though it be with painful effort, with self-denial and sacrifice, strive to attain the highest rung on the ladder of success. It's a quote from L.G. White, who is an author. And I think it's a really powerful quote, and it's something I choose to live by. I would recommend it to others, and set your mark high and strive. The sacrifices won't last forever. So I know there are even some young people who they think twice about going off to university to study because they don't want to leave their comfort zone. They don't want to leave home and their friends and family. In addition to the fact that everything is now accessible online, if you have to traveling and being away from your family and friends, it's temporary, and you're not missing out on anything when you're bettering yourself. So I would encourage young people to focus, set your mark high, and try to attain your goals.